What is going on, Sports Minds? It's your boy MJ coming at you with another episode of the Fantasy Fumble. I hope you're all doing excellent today, folks, because you know we are. It is football playoff season, and boy, let me tell you, this is my favorite time of the year because I get to see the looks on my opponent's faces when my team just takes off. Right? How you doing today, Joe?
Oh, I'm doing great. My teams are looking pretty good going into the playoffs. There's two where I'm locked in, two where I am battling. But it looks good just based on my matchups coming up. But you can never be too careful. You know, some people come up whether they're 3-9 or 3-10 and surprise you. But locked in two, battling in two others, completely out of two others. But altogether, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I can't say I'm in that many playoffs, but I'm in two, or making sure I secure a higher seed in two, and one of them I'm battling for a spot, but I'm going against the top scorer of the league. And man, this
Oh,
guy's
really?
outscored the league by 600 points. He also happens to have Saquon and Derrick Henry on the same team, so that having the
Did
two
he
top backs,
did he trade for that, or were those his first two picks somehow?
those were his first two picks.
Wow, he got
Yeah.
lucky there.
Yeah, he did. He did. Actually have a really good running back team there, but it's one of those times where I just joined the league and people don't trade, so it's just what you start with is what you end with, and that's not fantasy football. That's
That's not
just
nearly as fun, man.
like there's no risks involved. There's no fun. There's no thrill. That's the way I run my leagues. I want you degenerates to get your boost of
Of course.
adrenaline because there's nothing more fun than kicking ass on
Oh,
Sunday.
man, it's
And-
so fun to just rifle out a few trades just to test the waters. I remember when you sent a group text and said, anyone want to trade just for the hell of it?
yeah,
I
it's
feel
like,
that way sometimes. Like, let's just shake things up. Let me make some moves.
exactly, man. And that's what fantasy's about, brother. Good job, man. Keeping it up. I'm sure
Mhm.
some of those players, luckily we've avoided the injury Armageddon, right? That has been this year, which we'll get into. But first, word from our sponsors.
Hey there, my name is Manny James Gonzalez with PRB, and I'm a real estate agent here in Central Florida. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, military relocation pro, and big supporter of 2A and veterans' rights. My specialty is VA transactions. I'm also experienced in all parts of real estate.
I've been living in Florida for over 20 years, and I can tell you we still believe in freedom down here. One of the greatest job markets, excellent economy, and no state income tax. When it comes to an agent, you want one that's going to be honest, not afraid of a fight, and most importantly, willing to do the things that some agents aren't willing to do.
And what's that, Manny?
Shoot straight, Dan. If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your six. I'm Manny James Gonzalez, buying land for the free and home for the brave.
Welcome back, ballers. Now let's get into some news and notes. Unfortunately, as everyone knows, Christian McCaffrey is on IR again. And so is his backup, Jordan Mason. So if you did handcuff Christian McCaffrey with Jordan Mason, you're in a pickle right there, unless you grabbed Garendo off the waiver wire. Now, Austin Eckler, he's also going on IR after a head and neck injury. Trevor Lawrence was placed on IR after a bad concussion. If you saw that hit, it was brutal. And Taysom Hill, unfortunately, he was really looking good the last few weeks. He suffered a torn ACL and is out for the rest of the season. And Dallas Goedert, he may go on IR too, so keep an eye on that. And also in the news, Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Deontay Johnson has been suspended for 1 game for conduct detrimental to the team. Not exactly sure what that is. Didn't get any details. But he also has 4 fantasy points over the last 6 weeks. So who cares? Josh Allen became the first quarterback in league history to run for a touchdown, throw for a touchdown, and catch a touchdown in the same game. Week 13 against the San Francisco 49ers.
That was a fun game. I mean, watching
Really
that, it was a snow game.
I love the snow games, man. They're just so fun to watch, and as we've said, it's not good for fantasy, but I love it.
You know, and we were having a conversation about this off screen. I had a 12-leg parlay for running backs this whole weekend, right? And it was to go over the yardage for all of them. And I hit 10 out of 12. The last two were CMC and James Cook to hit over 60 and 65. Well, as you all know, he pretty much what happened to his knee, his knee blew out at 57 and at 58 yards, and he lost 5 more. So I ended up losing that. James Cook hit on his parlay, but obviously the fact that CMC didn't come back, all he needed was 7 yards to get me back into the money, man. So that would
have been a big one, man. And I told Manny, keep it at like 6 teams. You're going crazy with these 12-team parlays. Just keep it at 6. 4, 5, 6. That's cool.
Shit, man. I was in between 8 and 10, so I need to start being smarter about that, right? 6
yeah,
to,
then you're gonna hit. You're gonna be
6 to 8.
Now, to get into the injuries real quick, aside from all those people that are on injured reserve, did not practice today at running back. Breece Hall, Zamir White, Bucky Irving, DeAndre Swift, and Roshan Johnson. Keep in mind, DeAndre Swift and Roshan on the same team. Wide receivers, Mike Evans, Darnell Mooney, Cedric Tillman, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, same team, and Tyreek Hill. At tight end, as I previously mentioned, Dallas Goedert. And then at quarterback, aside from Trevor Lawrence, who's on IR, we're all good at quarterback. So we've had a few good weeks at quarterback up until that hit on Trevor Lawrence this week.
Yeah, definitely a lot of question marks. This is crucial time, too. It's playoff time, right? Making that push, trying to cement your place or get in there on the door knocking, right? You're outside of the door looking in. So I totally get that. The only player that you could pretty much pick up this week is Isaiah Guerrero. You mentioned him earlier. He's by default, he's going to be the top guy. You might even want to handcuff him with the backup. I saw him on the waiver wire. No one really touched him. So for anybody that's still in the game, the other backup signed from the practice squad was Patrick Taylor Jr. So he's going to be the second running back on the depth chart. I don't think they're going to give Guerrero a full workload. So maybe Patrick Taylor can carve himself out a role. But regardless, hedge your bets. Get him if you have Guerrero.
Yeah, not a bad call. Now let's get into our hot matchups.
Ooh. In here, man. Now, on for the hot matchups of the week. This is going to be a really fun game. We get to lead off the week with this game. It's going to be the Lions versus Green Bay. Two really great teams going at it, two juggernauts. It's going to be at Green Bay. Actually, no. It's in Detroit. So it's going to be in the Dome. Yeah. So that's going to be a fun game. No artificial conditions. It is going to be cold, I'm sure, a little bit.
Man, it'd be cool if we got another snow game, as we were just talking about.
Yeah. Cool for us, but hopefully, not good for long term, right? Fantasy injuries. I'd hate to, especially for people that have Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, man. That is the best running back tandem in the league. It's not even close.
Those two making guys, history together, man. I love those guys.
Yeah, they have 18 rushing touchdowns over the season, between the two of them. Like, that's amazing, and I honestly, going back to that side, they also have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, has had a couple good games, but he hasn't really had his blow-up games yet. So he's somebody that, we could see finally hit his stride near the end of the year because they've kept him healthy, which, it's good. He always gets banged up and plays through the injuries, but it's better to see him as healthy, going through the season. But because didn't he have like a bruised rib or like a fractured rib last year or something like that?
Yeah, dude, that's something I actually hadn't given it too much thought until you mentioned it. But yeah, he was banged up all last year. He was doing really well, but he was, at a questionable tag going into like every week. So that's a good point. They've kept him healthy, almost entirely healthy. Like he's had a questionable tag a couple times, but yeah, last year it was constant.
Yeah, definitely. So he's gonna be looking good. Laporta, let's see which one shows up. Will they use him? Will they not use him? Who knows? But on the Green Bay side, you cannot pass up on Josh Jacobs. Man, that guy is gonna be. He's just a bowling ball, just rolling down, just knocking people over. Man, he's always going forward when he's making contact. Obviously, I am bullish on Tucker Kraft this week too. I think they have his over under at like 35 yards. I think, he actually had some talk this week about, remembering Kirby Joseph for tearing the ACLs. Remember, I told you the one player from Detroit tore 2 ACLs last year. It was TJ Hawkinson, and it was the one from the Rams, Tyler Higbee.
Oh, yeah, Higbee. And he's practicing again.
Yeah, he's starting. Yeah, they're not going to have relevance besides Hawkinson, but both players had their ACLs tore by a low hit by Kirby Joseph. He's always hitting kneecaps. Tucker Kraft, who's a football maniac, I saw a story this week where it said that he remembers that he's going to, it's football. He's going to find them, but, this is for his tight end brothers. So,
oh, no shit.
Yeah. So it's going to be, yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's that intangible stuff, I think, that gives you like that positive momentum when you are going to play some props, man. So that's why I think Tucker Kraft is going to be a nice play. But outside of him, it could be Christian Watson, it could be Jaden Reed. I'm not taking the yardage, but a few props that I am taking. It was originally 85.5 yards for Josh Jacobs for all-purpose yards. Now it's 90.5. So that's kind of, they're creeping up there. I would still take the 90.5 because it's probably going to be 92 by the time game kicks off tomorrow. The other one I love, David Montgomery, all-purpose yards. It was originally at 76.5. Now it's at 79.5. So I would take that over. Same thing for the other one. These are guys that I just love, and I think we should definitely look into.
And also, if it's a snow game, they might be running the ball a little bit more. Or even if it's just cold, man, Yeah.
It's a dome, right? It's not. It doesn't have a roof.
Ford Field I'm sorry. They're playing at Detroit.
Yeah. Ford Field has a roof.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I was thinking they were playing. I was thinking they were playing in Green Bay. Never mind.
Nah, that would have been fun. Actually, maybe I could be wrong.
No. I just checked. They are at Detroit.
They are at Detroit. Okay.
Yeah. You're right. They're in the dome.
But that's all right, man. At the end of the day, it's gonna be a great game, and I'm taking a lot of overs on that game.
Yeah, I always bet the over. We were talking offline. I always bet the over because it's just so hard to watch a game when you got the under,
Yeah, not as fun.
Yeah, you want to see points on the board. Now, for my hot matchup, that little dopamine hit. For my hot matchup, I've got the Bills versus the Rams. Automatic start every week with James Cook and Josh Allen. We were talking earlier about how Josh Allen made history. He has just been on fire all season. And Matt Stafford, he is a little bit banged up, but they're expecting him to play. And we've seen what those wide receivers on the Rams do when Stafford's healthy and they're healthy, because we've had so many ups and downs simply due to injury. But when Puka's healthy and Cooper Kupp's healthy, those guys are amazing. Demarcus Robinson has been amazing too, coming out of nowhere. And, he's a little banged up right now too. But, I feel like he's a guy, DFS would be a good play. And the Rams, they're 6-6 right now. They're playing to win. They have to win. So expect a huge game from Puka, Cooper Kupp. I feel like Kyron Williams, even though he's been a little bit down, it's mostly because of the wide receivers. He's still a guy you put in your lineup and are comfortable getting double digits. So I feel like Matt Stafford's actually a great start. And then obviously the wide receivers, you could roll the dice on Demarcus Robinson. But yeah, they are in a must-win situation. And, the Bills, they never take their foot off the gas pedal. So Khalil Shakir, he's a risky start, but I would probably start him too. I think it's just going to be a really high-scoring game.
It's actually funny you mention him because I like his prop for receiving yardage for Khalil Shakir. It's 54.5 yards.
Okay.
And that's actually pretty generous considering the guy's had some, he's had some big games here and there. Last week he didn't do anything, obviously, as a snow game, so now being in Los Angeles, in a nice open sunny field, I could see him really being Josh Allen's favorite target because I don't know is Amari Cooper going to play, is he going to be 100%?
Yeah,
Nobody knows.
I don't think so. Yeah.
And then also Keon Coleman is also questionable as well. So, who's left?
Let's see.
Curtis Samuel and
Curtis Samuel's also questionable.
He's questionable as well.
Yeah.
See, there you go. Khalil Shakir, baby. Take that 54.5.
That's actually good. Yeah, I like that too.
But they don't have Kyron Williams all-purpose yards yet. They have his rushing at 70, but I love for a multi-feature back like that, you got to take the over for the overall.
It's funny. I usually lean on the all-purpose over the rushing or receiving with the running backs.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if they're going to have a big game, don't try to predict if it's through the air or on the ground. Just predict they're going to have a big game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I almost won last week. But that's all right. They don't give cigars to losers, all right?
Dial that back. Keep it at 6 teams. You don't need 12. It's ridiculous.
Go big or go home, baby.
Who's your honorable mention?
Honorable mention. I went ahead with a divisional game because divisional games in this conference could go one way or the other. Seahawks at the Cardinals. It's two really good offenses that kind of been sputtering a little bit. Two solid defenses as well. So I just think the offenses for both teams are better than their defense. So I could see this being a little bit of a back and forth. Although Vegas has it very low right now. They have all the numbers for like 44.5 for the spread. And it's just, they don't have a lot of yardage expectations for anybody. I mean, when your tight end has the highest yardage prediction at 64.5 yards, that's got you thinking. Trey McBride is the highest rated receiver in that game.
Dude, he was ridiculous last week.
Bro, and you have Jackson Smith and Najigba, like that.
He's pretty much wide receiver 1 there now.
Bro, 64.5 yards for Jackson Smith Najigba. I'll take him over. Like, I know Trey McBride's been hot, but what happens if it's Kyler Murray that's not hot, right? I'm not worried about Trey McBride coming out there. I'm worried about him getting looks from the quarterback. So I would take the JSN 64.5 yards, and then the all-purpose yards for James Conner's like 80 something. And I'd rather take the 63.5 rush yards for Conner because he's going to get his yardage on the ground.
Yeah, with Conner, he's one of those guys you know he's probably going to get more on the ground. What was it for McBride?
McBride was 64.5 yards or 56.
I'd probably take that too because I have a feeling this is going to be a lot of throwing.
Yeah, 65.5 for McBride and 64.5 for Smith Najigba, and they have DK Metcalf at 58.5 yards.
I might take all 3 of those.
I mean, they're low. Those are low yardage. You're typically looking at, 70s is for like Amon Ra and, Puka Nacua. You're looking at 75,
These teams are both battling for a playoff spot too. I'm surprised they got the over-under at, you said 42?
Yeah, the overall, they have it here for the game. So for that one, 44.5, excuse me.
Oh, 44.
Yeah, 44.
No, you might have said that.
Yeah. But
yeah, I have a feeling that could easily go over with just those players we're talking about. And don't forget about Kenneth Walker too. He's going to have I'm pretty sure he's going to have a big day. These defenses are not anything special.
They're not. And Zach Charbonnet vultured Kenneth Walker's touchdown this past week. So, I think he gets in the end zone. Because how are they going to give it to that rookie twice, It's Kenneth Walker's backfield. Pay some respect.
That's the truth. For my honorable mention, I have the Bengals versus the Cowboys. At this point, both these teams are really just playing for pride, but when you've got Jamar Chase in sync with Joe Burrow, those guys are lights out. I mean, the points just boom, shoot up, and T. Higgins as well. Expect them all to have a big day. And then with the Cowboys, I mean, we're let down to a degree, even though his numbers have looked pretty good. CeeDee Lamb has been somewhat disappointing this year, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Cooper Rush, but if this is going to be a high-scoring game, or if the Bengals get a big lead, it's just going to lead to the Cowboys chucking the ball. But we also saw Rico Dowdle have a huge game a couple times over the last few weeks, and last week he looked awesome. So I expect this to be just a high-scoring game with a good amount of passing. And on the ground, you're going to see a lot of shuffle passes, and you're going to see, Chase Brown doing his thing and Rico Dowdle doing his thing. And it's a Monday Night Football game. Everything just seems a little bit more special on Monday night, as we know. These teams are coming to play. They're going to play hard. And I feel like this is going to be all offense with very minimal defense.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the higher rated games of the week for the spread. It's 49.5 for that game. So they don't have a lot of player props, so I can't give you any. But, if take the overall yardage on Chase Brown. I mean, like you were saying, he's a stud.
Yeah.
Take
and he's
that.
Involved in the pass game. Yeah, take the overall for sure.
Yeah. But on the Cowboys side, who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen there? CeeDee may play, right? He's questionable.
He's a little banged up, so if he doesn't play, expect – I think Rico Dowdle is going to have a big game either way. The Bengals defense is nothing special, and that's the same reason, we were just talking about the Seahawks and the Cardinals having a big day. Their defense is nothing to write home about. So when you've got these offensive weapons and a weak defense, yeah, I expect there just to be a lot of scoring.
Now for a cold call.
Who's your cold call, Manny?
For my cold call, I'm going to go ahead and take the Jags versus the Titans. That's just going to be this is a game I want to stay far away from. The Jags just lost Trevor Lawrence. Like they're, obviously Mac Jones looked good, emergency start, but you expect Mac Jones to return to his true form, right? So I don't have a lot of trust in that team, as well as the Titan side. Calvin Ridley started off hot, but he's fell off in the recent weeks, or most of the season actually.
Yeah, it's been like up and down all season. Yeah.
Tony Pollard ruined a lot of parlays for me last week. I was bullish on him, so I'm not, trusting him, and he probably will have a big day. But I'm not putting him on my slips. So
no, I think you're right. Pollard probably have a respectable day. Maybe not crazy, but outside of him, let's see. Jags are 2-10. Titans are 3-9. They're barely playing for pride at this point, and the Jaguars' backfield is a total mess too. So yeah, I would say play Tony Pollard, and that's about it. I would not start Ridley if I had a better option.
I would stay away from everybody.
Maybe Evan Ingram, but again, we're not sure about the quarterback situation yet. So I would turn down those expectations for him too. Now for my cold call, I have the Saints versus the Giants. Their record is very similar to the teams we were just discussing. Saints are 4-8, Giants are 2-10. The quarterback situation there is not going to give you confidence starting Neighbors. And I feel like, that's probably a big reason that Tracy's been successful is they don't have confidence in their pass. But even Tracy, you got to expect that he's going to have probably about 12 to 15 points, possibly, get closer to 20. But outside of Tyrone Tracy, I'm not playing anyone on the Giants with confidence, and he's more of a flex play anyway. On the Saints, everyone's injured. You're going to play Alvin Kamara, and that's it. Maybe like as a spot start, you could put in Juwan Johnson, but Taysom Hill went down last week, and their receiving core. Let's just take a look real quick. Chris Olave IR, Rashid Shaheed IR. So MVS, you could probably start him as a spot start, but outside of that, I don't think you're making too many moves with the Saints.
Yeah, I'm staying. Good game to stay far away from besides the running backs.
No doubt. Now let's get into our shit calls of the week. Now for my shit call, I'm going to actually take you back to preseason because I was very, very high on Sam Laporta. I had him as my tight end number one over every other tight end. And he has been a huge, huge disappointment. I don't think it's entirely his fault, but even when he does get targets, it doesn't seem to turn into anything except a touchdown here or there. And yeah, touchdowns are great, but like last week, he had like 5 yards and 2 touchdowns, I mean, if he's not getting touchdowns, then you're not getting numbers. It's like the opposite of Trey McBride. Trey McBride has had like throughout the entire season, hasn't been in the end zone, but his numbers are off the charts because he's getting insane volume and he's getting a ton of yardage. With Laporta, it's the exact opposite. He's not getting enough targets. Even when he does get the targets, it's probably a small number compared to what we saw last year. And it has to be in an end zone. If he's getting end zone targets, sure. Like last week, he had 2 touchdowns. That was great. But without those 2 touchdowns, it was a total bust, just like we've seen so many other times. So my shit call was putting Sam Laporta as my number 1 tight end because he's probably around 20 right now.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Joe. Tight ends suck. We know this. And we don't mean you suck in real life, guys. Don't get offended. What I mean is that fantasy-wise, it's such a drop-off that, it's so hard to count on, drafting one in the earlier rounds. So that's why we always warn you, grab a tight end later, guys. There's going to be some options available.
Most definitely.
But for my shit call, I'm only going back a few weeks. I'm going back into the season. My shit call was, thinking that CeeDee Lamb was going to have a better year than Jamar Chase. I traded him to you. I traded you Jamar Chase. He's been on an absolute tear. Wide receiver 1, and it's, and it's not even close right now for his average.
There was a 2 for 2 though, and you won the other side of that. But yeah.
Yeah,
it balanced out.
Still, for me to think that CeeDee Lamb was going to have a better year, I actually thought that Cowboys had a better supporting cast than the Bengals at that point in the season, right? So it's crazy how teams can shift and how not being patient can hurt you. So I guess my take from it and my message to you guys are, when you have a good player, you want to make sure that you're assessing that player's talent and letting them develop that chemistry, because early in the season you're going to have a lot of misses and stuff like that, miscues. I guess my shit call was selling on some players too early, which I missed out on some good returns there. And not just with you, just trades in general. I gave up on a few other players. I was bullish on Breece Hall, and that ended up being, so far, it shot me in the foot pretty good.
And a perfect example of that we've already discussed in a few previous episodes is Chase Brown. I was telling you a month into the season, that's Zach Moss's backfield. It's not a committee, and it was a committee, and Chase Brown took over 100%. So you got it. If you see potential in these players, you do have to give them some time. I mean, I felt the same way about Sam Laporta too, but we've given him enough time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually right now after you talk about him, he's gonna start going off for the rest of the
He'll have
season.
2 touchdowns again next week. Yeah.
Yeah, for like 100 yards. Watch.
I just traded him, so I hope he does do well though, just on a personal level.
Welcome back, Sports Minds. We do appreciate you coming in again for another episode. Hopefully, if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to leave them for us. We'd love to hear the feedback. Keeps us popping, right? So regardless, Joe, you have anything to say to these guys?
No, just keep tuning in, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah. And we're not the best at throwing plugs, guys, but hey,
We
we
hate
get
throwing
good
plugs.
content.
Yeah, but it does help. I hate
Yeah.
it, but we're not very good at that, but
Help us.
one
Help
day.
us help you.
Yeah.
Help us help you. Hit that follow button. Share it with your mama. Tell your granny. All right. Download it on her phone so that's the only channel she can watch. No, I'm just kidding. We appreciate you guys. Love you. You guys have a good rest of your day, and see you same time, same place next week, guys. Take care.